Today, let us move on to another topic. You can see a picture on the screen. Just look at that picture. What do you understand from this picture? What is it about? What do you feel about that picture? There are just two words in it, but it conveys a lot of meaning. What is it about? Yes, it is about job application.
സർ ടെക്സ്റ്റിലെ പേജ് നമ്പർ ഒന്ന് പറയൂ സർ.
106, page 106. Page 106 from, yes, module 3, Pulse to Pick എന്നുള്ള മൊഡ്യൂളിലാണ്. So this picture, a guy is falling at the feet of somebody to get him a job, to give him a job. Is this the way in which we can get a job? Can we get a job in this manner? No, yeah, we cannot get. So this is not the method. Then how do we get a job? What is the method? What are the processes involved? Yes. Yes. So if you look back at the history of a person who has landed in a job, he will not have suddenly got that job. He or she will have appeared in an interview. Before appearing in an interview, that person might have written a test. Before writing the test, he will have applied for the job. Yes. So he would have written a resume, a biodata. He would have seen an application form or a notification for the job in a newspaper or in any such media, applications invited for a job. Before seeing an application invitation, she would have acquired some qualifications. So before acquiring the qualifications, you would have prepared yourself by looking for suitable diploma or degree programs, which will land you in a job. So the certain steps are required. So the steps that are required are proper qualifications. Okay, qualifications. So you need a qualification to apply for the job. Then you have to look for notifications, job notifications. Nowadays, job notifications are found everywhere. You can find it in newspapers, you can find it on the internet, you can find it on uh, certain mobile applications, etc. Once you see a job notification, you prepare a resume and a cover letter. These things we have discussed earlier. And you send a resume and a cover letter. And we will not be the only applicant. There will be many applicants for the same job. So what they will do is they will make a filter in the form of a test paper. So there will be a common test which will be conducted after all the people have submitted their applications. And this common test will be a kind of filter. So where do they want to conduct this filter? They want to reduce the number of the applications to a manageable one, so that they need not have to exert themselves too much to find out the right candidates. So after the test paper, they will again do certain filterings. So the most common kind of two filterings that they do are what is known as group discussion. This is another filter that is done by the organization which is conducting the placement. When they are doing a placement, they will conduct a group discussion. What happens in a group discussion? Group discussion, all the candidates for the particular post, they are asked to sit together and given a topic to discuss. So there is no interference by the people who are conducting this placement program. Only the candidates are there and they will be talking to each other. And the organization people, the people who are conducting this group discussion, they will be just watching and they will be evaluating the candidates by the way we participate in the group discussion. This is the second last stage. This is not the last stage. This is the second last stage. Almost 50% of the candidates who participate in a group discussion are eliminated. So these are methods of elimination. What are methods of elimination? That is test, group discussion, etc. are GD. Group discussions are shortly referred to as GD. They are methods of elimination. Elimination means to remove. എടുത്തു കളയാം. ആവശ്യമില്ലാത്തതിനെ എടുത്തു കളയുന്ന ഒരു മെത്തേഡ്. So they eliminate the unsuitable candidates to pick out the suitable candidates. Then we have the final stage, and the final stage is what we discussed. That is the interview. So in the final stage, in most organizations, what happens is that if they have 10 posts, 10 vacancies, usually the double number of candidates, at least the double number of candidates are called for an interview. So even the interview is something like an elimination. If there are a lot of candidates who have applied, so the minimum number that they call for an interview is almost the double number of candidates who have applied for the job. The peculiarity of an interview is that it is a one-to-one process. So it is not one-to-many like a test paper. A test paper is a one-to-many process. There will be one question paper which many people will be answering. But an interview is a one-to-one process that the company will be directly interacting with us. The company represented by the people who are conducting the interview. The people who are conducting the interview may be many, but the company is one. So they will be interacting with one candidate during an interview. So after that candidate is interviewed, another candidate will be called. So interview is a very challenging task, especially for candidates who have never participated in interviews. So if you have participated in an interviews, it will be easy. But otherwise, it is not an easy thing because you need to prepare a lot when you are getting ready for an interview. Okay, so here you have already mentioned the things that we need to prepare if you want to get a job. So preparing for a job, getting a job, you need to have a proper qualification. You need to look for ads in the newspaper, then you prepare a resume. Hope you are able to see that. You send a job application letter. After sending a job application letter, we will be called for called for a test. After attending the test, we will be asked to present ourselves in a group discussion. After the group discussion, we will be asked to appear in an interview, and finally, we will be given a posting order. So that is these are the steps in getting a job. So it is not in the manner that we saw in the previous picture that you fall at the feet of somebody. You never get a job like that. In fact, any kind of recommendation for getting a job is usually a disqualification. So our method of getting a job is to equip ourselves, to make ourselves qualified in every manner possible so that the company is forced to take us because we are the best candidate who are available for the organization. So that is the method in which we can prepare ourselves. So we will be focusing mostly on the final aspect of the process of job interview. So we have discussed there are many aspects of appearing in of getting a job. That is, we need to have the proper qualification. We have to look for the job notifications, and then we have the group discussion, and then finally we have the interview. And we'll be focusing in this chapter only on the interview. What are the things that we have to take care in the interview? So here we have a word cloud on how to prepare for the interview. So before the interview, I will just read it out. So here we have a candidate. Her name is Twinkle. Twinkle is busy preparing for an interview. Her friend gave the following suggestions to help her perform well in the interview. But some of the details are irrelevant. Irrelevant means not relevant, means not useful. So everything that people advise may not be useful for us. So irrelevant means not is useful for this purpose of an interview. So write down in the space provided the relevant ones. So many of them are relevant. You just need to pick out those things which are not relevant. So there are some things which are not relevant in these things. Develop an in-depth knowledge of the subject is required. You need to have a very strong base in the subject that we studied. So it is very much required. So we cannot avoid that because the interviewer will surely ask us questions on the topics that we prepared. But this is not required. The next one is not required. because they are not going to analyze what you have written, your project report, etc. They are not required. We may need to carry our certificates with us. Certificates of our qualifications are required, but copies of project reports, seminar reports, etc. They are all huge documents which are which is not possible to evaluate in an interview. So we don't have to take these things with us. So this is not required. What is not required? Take the seminar and project reports is not required. So this is irrelevant for the interview. And next one, meet the employer before the interview. Should we meet the interviewer before the interview? That is also irrelevant. Very good. This is also a disqualification when we participate in an interview. We should not try to influence the interviewer, like by falling at his feet or like that. We will be trying to get into the job only by our qualifications and our skills and our abilities and our qualities. So this is irrelevant. Update the resume 1 or 2 days earlier. This is relevant. This is required because resume is not permanent. Resume is something that always keeps changing. So, in fact, when you apply for 2 different jobs, it is better to prepare 2 different resumes because two different jobs require 2 different sets of skills and qualities. So we have to modify our resume in such a manner that the resume actually can relate well to the position that we are applying for. അല്ലാതെ സ്ഥിരമായിട്ടൊരു റെസ്യൂമെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി അത് തന്നെ എല്ലാത്തിനും അയച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ഇസ് നോട്ട് എ ഗുഡ് ഐഡിയ. So we have to prepare resumes. We can have a basic resume, but we have to modify it. Every time we send our resume to any organization, we have to modify it according to our profile, according to the qualities, the skills that you have acquired. Even when you have applied to the same company, for example, I have applied for a job in a company. After I attended the test, they called me for a job, group discussion. Then I go for an interview. There is a time gap of 2 or 3 months. Within that 2 or 3 months, I may have attended some trainings. I may have attended some small courses. All these details can be updated in the resume that I carry when I go for the interview. ജോലിക്ക് അപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ അയക്കുമ്പോഴുള്ള റെസ്യൂമെ ആയിരിക്കരുത് നമ്മൾ ജോലിക്ക് പോകുമ്പോഴുള്ള റെസ്യൂമെ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വി ഷുഡ് ഹാവ് കോൺസ്റ്റന്റ്ലി updated ourselves. So it is better to update our resume 1 or 2 days before the interview. ഇന്റർവ്യൂവിൻ്റെ തലേന്ന് നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ നിൽക്കരുത്. കാരണം ഇന്റർവ്യൂവിൻ്റെ തലേന്ന് റെസ്യൂമെ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we will lose a lot of time. So a couple of days before the interview, it is always a good idea to rework on the resume so that it is the latest. It has the latest details about ourselves. So we have to prepare the resume every time we go for the interview. So the resume should appear to be fresh and new, which includes the latest details of the candidate. So that is what they want, the employer wants. So updating the resume is required. This is another major aspect that is required. This is very relevant, very important. Update knowledge of current affairs. I have also personally experienced that in many interviews that I attended, there were questions about what we see in that day's newspaper. അന്നത്തെ ദിവസത്തെ പത്രത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ചോദിച്ച ഒരുപാട് എക്സാമ്പിൾസ് ഉണ്ട്. Not only in my personal experience, many even in the civil services interviews, there were questions which were asked to candidates from that day's newspaper. So reading a newspaper is a very important skill, very important activity which should actually become the habit of any person who is serious about landing in a job. How many of us read the newspapers just for curiosity? I am asking. എത്ര പേര് സ്ഥിരമായിട്ട് പേപ്പർ വായിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്? ഡെയിലി രാവിലെ എഴുന്നേറ്റുടനെ പേപ്പർ വായിക്കുന്നത് മേ നോട്ട് ബി പ്രാക്ടിക്കൽ, പക്ഷേ എന്നാലും എപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും ദിവസം ഒന്ന് പേപ്പർ മറിച്ചു നോക്കുകയെങ്കിലും ചെയ്യുന്നവർ, സ്ഥിരമായിട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നവർ, ഡെയിലി ചെയ്യുന്നവരുണ്ടോ? ഓക്കെ, ജ്യോതി ഈസ് ദർ. ഓക്കെ, ഡെയിലി ഇല്ല. ഓക്കെ, anyone else? എസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നോ ഇട്ടാൽ മതി, ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ ടൈപ്പ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ. ഏരിയില്ല. ഓക്കെ, okay. Many people are writing that they are not doing it every day. It is okay if you miss it for one day, but it should become a regular thing. Okay, otherwise this should become part of our daily, what is called a routine. There is something called a routine. ഇന്ന സമയം തൊട്ട് ഇന്ന സമയം വരെ ഇത് ചെയ്യും എന്നുള്ളൊരു routine. Building a routine is a good habit for anyone who is serious about building a career. നമുക്കൊരു റുട്ടീൻ സ്ഥിരമായിട്ട് ഇയാൾ ഇന്ന സമയത്തിന് ചെയ്യണ്ടാവുന്നു ബാക്കിയുള്ളവർക്ക് ഫീൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന രീതിയിലൊരു റുട്ടീൻ നമുക്കുണ്ടാവുന്നത് നല്ലതാണ്. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് യു ഗെറ്റ് അപ്പ് അറ്റ് എ സർട്ടൻ ടൈം, you do your activities at a certain time, etc. That is called a routine. So it is better to stick to that routine irrespective of the kind of day. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ക്ലാസ് ഉള്ള ദിവസം, കോളേജിലുള്ള ദിവസം നമ്മൾ 5 മണിക്ക് എഴുന്നേക്കും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 6 മണിക്ക് എഴുന്നേക്കും. കോളേജ് ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ 10 മണി വരെ കിടന്നുറങ്ങും. അങ്ങനെ പലരും ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്. That is not actually a routine. Routine is something that you follow. Okay, so this is something that you follow irrespective of the external circumstances. കോളേജ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും ഇല്ലെങ്കിലും ഞാനൊരു കൃത്യസമയത്ത് എഴുന്നേക്കും, കൃത്യസമയത്ത് എൻ്റെ ആക്ടിവിറ്റീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഈസ് ഗുഡ് ഓൾസോ ഫോർ ഹെൽത്ത്, not only for a career. For if you want to have a good health, we may not realize the importance of good health at this very young age. Most of you are in your very young age, you are all youth, so we may not realize the importance of it, but the kind of habits that we acquire is going to decide the kind of health that we are going to enjoy in our life in the future. So if we can develop certain healthy habits, like developing a good routine, that will stay us through our life and will promise us a good health, because they say that health is actually the wealth. So there is a proverb which we have in English. Health is wealth. Actually, wealth is not wealth. നമുക്ക് പലർക്കും ഒരു ധാരണയുണ്ടെന്നല്ലോ. Why do we work? We work to earn money, so we think that money is everything. But actually, money is not everything. If you have a lot of money and you suddenly die, what happens? Are we able to enjoy that wealth? Will you enjoy the wealth? You earn a lot of money, suddenly you have a heart attack and you die. Can we enjoy the wealth again? No, we cannot do that. We cannot enjoy. So our all the wealth that we has created, maybe the people who are left in the family, they may be able to enjoy, but we are not able to enjoy them. So the real wealth is actually health, because as long as you have health, even if you have something less in money, you can earn that, create that money by the health that you have got. As long as we are healthy, we are able to create wealth, though we may not be very wealthy. So for that, the basic thing is to bring about a systematic, a system in our life, that is to get organized, organize our life in such a manner that we are able to do our activities in a systematic manner. So daily is something which is good, even if it is for a few minutes. Doing something daily is beneficial. പേപ്പർ വായിക്കുന്നത് ഞാൻ 1 മണിക്കൂർ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലേ വായിക്കുള്ളൂ, അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടാവും ചിലർ. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ഡെയിലി വായിക്കാത്തത്. 1 മണിക്കൂർ കിട്ടണം എനിക്ക് പേപ്പർ വായിക്കുന്നത്. അതിൽ ചരമക്കോളം ഉൾപ്പെടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരും ഒക്കെ നോക്കിയിട്ട് വായിക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരുണ്ട്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ വേ പീപ്പിൾ ഡു ഇറ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ 1 മണിക്കൂർ കിട്ടിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ എനിക്ക് പേപ്പർ വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. But it is not necessary that you spend such a long time. You can just flip through the pages. So some days, if you don't have time for reading the newspaper, you can flip through the pages. Doing something regularly is very important. So it's same the case with exercise also. When you exercise every day for a few minutes, it is better than doing exercise for 1 hour on a holiday and then not doing it for 1 week. It's better to do it regularly for at least a few minutes every day. So regularity is a good quality that we can acquire, especially in reading newspapers, because certain news that you find on a particular day, you will not find on the next day. You will find only the continuation of that. So you will lose thread of what is happening. ഇത് ക്ലാസ്സിൻ്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ സംഭവിക്കും നമുക്ക്, എസ്പെഷ്യലി ഇഫ് യു ആർ ഡീലിംഗ് വിത്ത് സർട്ടൻ ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട് കോഴ്സസ്, ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട് സബ്ജക്ട്സ്. ഒരു ദിവസത്തെ ക്ലാസ് കേട്ടില്ലെങ്കിൽ അടുത്ത ദിവസത്തെ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പോകുമ്പോൾ യു വിൽ ബി ഇൻ ബിഗ് കൺഫ്യൂഷൻ, because you have lost track of what has been discussed in the previous session. Similarly, it is with the newspapers also. If you have not read the previous day's newspaper, you are not likely to get an idea of what is happening. So nowadays, current affairs means things that are happening around us. That is what is known as current affairs. Current means something that is now happening. Okay, that is current. Present എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥത്തിൽ, മറ്റേ ഫ്ലോ എന്നുള്ള അർത്ഥത്തിലല്ല കറണ്ട്. വാട്ടർ കറണ്ട്, ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി കറണ്ട് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത്, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ ഫ്ലോ ഓഫ് ദാറ്റ്. ഹിയർ സംതിങ് ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് നൗ currently happening, that is called current affairs. So the major thing in current affairs, what is now happening, you can see it in the front pages of the newspaper. So that is what is current. So current affairs is something that we have to be familiar with. We have to know what is happening around us in the world. So if you discuss what is currently happening, you can say that the BRICS summit. So we should know what is BRICS. BRICS എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? നമുക്ക് ആകെ അറിയാവുന്ന ബ്രിക്ക് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ചുടുകട്ടയാണ്, ഇഷ്ടിക. ആ ബ്രിക്ക് അല്ല ഇത്, ഇത് വേറൊരു ബ്രിക്കാണ്. ബ്രിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ്സ് ആക്ച്വലി ഷോർട്ട് ഫോർ 6 നേഷൻസ്. ബ്രിക്സ് സമ്മിറ്റ് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിൽ പ്രിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ആരാണെന്ന് അറിയും? ഹു ഈസ് പ്രിസൈഡിങ് ഓവർ ദ ബ്രിക്സ് സമ്മിറ്റ്? DCP കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ്സിന് എസ്പെഷ്യലി കറണ്ട് അഫയേഴ്സ് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. കാരണം ഈ നമ്മളുടെ അപ്പിയർ ചെയ്യുന്ന PhD എക്സാമിനേഷൻസ് എല്ലാം കറണ്ട് അഫയേഴ്സിന് ഒരുപാട് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ഈ ഡിപ്ലോമ എക്സാമിലും DCPയുടെ ചില പേപ്പേഴ്സിൽ കറണ്ട് അഫയേഴ്സ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവും. Because you are now logged in through the internet, you can easily find out what this is. ബ്രിക്സ് എന്താണെന്നുള്ള ഈസി ആയിട്ട് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ബ്രിക്സ് is actually a union of 5 different nations, including India. And during the BRICS summit that is now going on, the Indian Prime Minister is presiding over. It keeps changing in every summit. This BRICS summit is being presided over by the Indian Prime Minister. So this is what is currently happening. So current affairs is something which every candidate should be familiar with. This is something that they will definitely ask you in the interview. Why are they asking it? It is to check whether you are very passionate about things that ഒന്നിലും ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഇല്ലാത്ത ഒരാൾക്ക് കമ്പനിയിലും ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. See, this is a common deduction. You can this is called to deduce something. Deduce something means to, this is called adinu vannattulla deduction ennu parayunnu. So the way we behave, they can understand about people. ഒരിക്കലും പേപ്പർ വായിക്കാത്ത ഒരാൾക്ക് പൊതുവെ ഒന്നിലും താല്പര്യം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. ചുറ്റുമുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ നടക്കാൻ താല്പര്യമില്ലാത്ത ഒരാളാണെങ്കിൽ they are not likely to get interested in the company also. So they may not be interested in the development of the company. നമുക്ക് നേരെ ഇല്ലാത്തത് കൊണ്ടാണെങ്കിൽ it's a different thing. But if you are not interested in going through what is happening in the around us, we are not likely to contribute to the development of the organization. So that is why the interviewers definitely will ask us about current affairs. That is, are you really interested in what is happening around? This is actually one of the major things that we have to focus on. That is why I have spent so much time on this aspect of current affairs. The next one is interesting. Idu veno vende. Is this relevant or irrelevant? Prepare a detailed description of the family. It is irrelevant. It is not required. We are not going for a marriage interview. Marriage interview is very important. We are going for a job interview. Job interview, what does it matter which family you come from, how many brothers you have, how many sisters you have, what is your father, what is your mother, is not important. What are you is important. It is not important what job your father does or what job your mother does. Oh, achan inna jodiyana. Adonnu important alla. What is important? What are you as a candidate? What qualities do we have? What are the skills that you possess? What are your attitudes? What is your qualification? What is the strengths that you have as a candidate? All these things are important. The focus is on you. That is why it is called an interview. It is interview and split. Inter means between you and the company. There is nobody else. Inter nu parnal Tamil ennulla oru artham undu. It is also sometimes said as an inner view. Okay, interview is also sometimes called an inner view. They are trying to see what is inside ourselves. We may project outside as a very good person, but are we that inside? So this is what they are going to try to find out in an interview. So the details of the family are not relevant at all. We may mention one or two things about our family, that I belong to a 2-member, 3-member, 4-member family. I live in such and such a place, etc. But a detailed description of the family is not something that is called for an interview. It's not required to be presented in an interview. If they ask you some details, we can provide those details. But even then, giving too much details about the family is going to show that we are actually lacking in resources in ourselves. We are depending too much on the family. So we should be focusing more on ourselves, more on our personal skills than on the family. Okay. This obviously is very, very important. വായിച്ചാൽ തന്നെ അറിയാം അത് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്, റെലവൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളതാണെന്നുള്ളത്. But I have a question for you. This is very relevant, but how will you get this? Where will you get this? If you are going for an interview in a particular company, it is very clear that we should have some knowledge about that organization. Where will I get this information? Yes, it is, but where will I get this information? For example, I am going for a job in ISRO, for example. Where will I get the details about this organization? I can search online. There will be website, ISRO പോലെയുള്ള ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻസിന് വെബ്സൈറ്റ് ഉണ്ടാവും. get a lot of information. ഈ ISRO ജോലിക്ക് പോകണം, ISROന്റെ ഫുൾ ഫോം അറിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ അയാളെ ജോലിക്ക് എടുക്കുമോ? They will not take you for a job. So yes, they will not take. So you can get from their website all these details. We should get a very thorough understanding. You should know about their vision. എല്ലാ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻസിനും വിഷൻ മിഷനൊക്കെ പോസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. നമ്മുടെ കോളേജിനും ഒരു വിഷൻ മിഷൻ ഉണ്ട്, നമ്മുടെ വെബ്സൈറ്റിൽ അത് ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. So we should be aware of these things when you go for an interview. That shows that you have a real interest. We have a genuine interest in the genuine is something, that word that I am going to use again and again. Genuine means true. We have a real interest, a true interest in the organization. It's indicated by our deep knowledge of the organization. So how can we gather this information? We can gather this information from the internet. Suppose it is a very small factory or an organization which does not have such website. ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു സ്ഥലത്തുള്ളൊരു സ്ഥാപനമാണെങ്കിൽ യു ക്യാൻ അതിൻ്റെ വെബ്സൈറ്റ് ഇല്ല, അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ഗ്യാദർ ചെയ്തില്ല എന്ന് തീരുമാനിക്കരുത്. യു ക്യാൻ ഗോ ദെയർ, ആസ്ക് ദ പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ആർ either working there. There may be already people who are working there. We can talk to them. You can collect information about that company. What is the company doing? What is the company manufacturing? What work is it doing? How many workers are there? Do they have branches at this, etc. ഓൺലൈനിലുള്ളത് മാത്രമേ ഞാൻ കളക്ട് ചെയ്യണോ എന്ന് തീരുമാനിക്കേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല. അല്ലാതെയും ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ കിട്ടും. വെബ്സൈറ്റ് ഇല്ലാത്ത ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ ആണെങ്കിലും വിവരങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് ശേഖരിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും. How can we collect information about a company that doesn't have a website? We can talk to the people who work there. We can talk to the neighbors of that organization. In fact, we can collect a lot of information from the work there. So collecting information is not a difficult in this era of knowledge. We are living in an era of knowledge. A lot of knowledge is available at our fingertips. So whether we do it or not will decide whether we are going to shine in the interview. So why is it important to collect all these details? Why can't we just go for the interview? Because everyone has the same qualification. Qualification എല്ലാവർക്കും same ആണ്. Whether it is Jyoti or Jofi or Binsi or Archita, there are so many, all the people have the same qualification. എല്ലാവരും DCP ആണ് പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. Then what makes the difference? The difference is in the way we present ourselves, the kind of interest that we take, the kind of attitudes that we exhibit. All these things differ, and that is why certain people land in certain kinds of situations, certain people land in certain other kind of situations. So it is according to the differences in our personality. So the acquiring knowledge which are not directly related to our subject is a quality which every candidate needs to develop, especially about the organization that you are going to for an interview. So now we come to a different aspect, presenting ourselves for an interview. So these are the things which are directly related to the interview. All these things are relevant. Idellam important aanu. The way we present ourselves, we have to be neatly dressed in a good proper attire. Idine nammal dress ennu parayumbol it includes many things. It is attire. Attire includes dressing as well as everything else. The way you comb your hair, and the way you present yourself, everything is included in an attire. If you wear a lot of ornaments for an interview, it is not good. So the minimum amount of ornament, especially when women go for the interview, minimum amount of ornaments, a simple dress, etc., are something that is required in an interview. And planning the journey. These are, yes, all these three things are relevant. Planning the journey for the venue is also important. I have been called for an interview at 9:30 a.m. in a company. I should try to reach there at least 1 hour before, because There may be some preliminary things that you have to go and do. You may have to give the certificates at the reception. They may have to verify it. There may be a lot of processes involved before the actual interview. So we have to plan in such a manner that we reach there at least half an hour or 45 minutes before the actual time of the interview. So how can we plan? If we are not aware of the place, it is sometimes suggested that it is better to go there 1 or 2 days before. അങ്ങനെ ദിവസം മുമ്പ് ആ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ വെന്യൂ ഒക്കെ ഒന്ന് പോയി ആ സ്ഥലം എവിടെയാണെന്നൊക്കെ മനസ്സിലാക്കി വെക്കുന്നത് നല്ലതാണ്. If we are so serious about the interview, it is better to reach that place as early as possible. So planning the travel. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഇത് അരമണിക്കൂർ കൊണ്ട് എത്തുമെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് കാര്യമില്ല. You have to really plan the journey so that we are not late. We may reach just in time for the interview, but that is going to affect our interview. ഇപ്പോൾ 9:30 ഇന്റർവ്യൂവിന് 9:30 ഞാൻ അവിടെ എത്തിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ I will not be in the right frame of mind to answer the questions in an interview because I already am tensed about being late. That is going to affect my mind because we have to be in a very calm state of mind when we go for an interview. This goes for exam also. When we go for an exam, we have to be in a very calm state of mind. So is it true for the interviews too. We have to reach the place right in time, well before time, so that we are able to participate in the interview with a very composed mind, a poised mind. And interviews are not something that are happening suddenly only for you. These things have been happening for the past several centuries now. So there are common questions that are asked in an interview. So we have to practice those questions. What are those common questions? They have to be practiced. We have to go look for those questions, practice those questions, and then prepare ourselves. We will discuss those questions later, but there are certain other things that we have to do. What are the questions? It is there in activity 3. Let's just look at that. One second. Yeah, here some questions are there. Can you tell me some questions? I mean, not questions are there. Some spaces are there to write the questions. What are the common questions that are likely to be asked in an interview? What is the first common question? ഏറ്റവും ആദ്യം മിക്കവാറും എന്തായിരിക്കും ചോദിക്കുക? It's almost a sure question in every interview. Yes. So why do you want to choose this profession? That is a very common question. Anything else? There are almost about 8 to 10 very common questions. 8-10 questions ഉണ്ട് അങ്ങനെ വളരെ കോമൺ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് എന്ന് പറയാനായിട്ട്. Yes, most of the interviews begin with a self-introduction. അപ്പോൾ അവർ പൊതുവെ സാധാരണ ചോദിക്കുക, can you tell me something about yourself? So this is something that, can you tell us something about yourself? That is self-introduction. Okay, so this is something which an interview begins because we go prepared for the interview. The interview board comes unprepared. അവർ ഇന്റർവ്യൂവിന് പഠിച്ചിട്ടൊന്നുമല്ല പോകുന്നത്. They are employees in the organization. They don't come prepared for the interview. Only the candidates has gone prepared for an interview. So they are preparing for the interview from the way we answered our self-introduction. So tell us something about yourself. So what we say about ourselves, based on that, other questions will come. So then they will ask you, why do you want to choose this profession? What do you know about our organization? What kind of a person are you? There are many other questions. Okay, so we will discuss those questions later. But before we come to the questions, going to the interview itself requires a lot of skill. That is the next one. There are certain do's and don'ts related to interview. I think with this, yes, they will ask us about our strength and also about our This telling about our strength is easy, but telling about our weakness is difficult. So they will ask us about our weakness. എന്താണ് നമ്മുടെ വീക്ക്നെസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും കിടന്നുറങ്ങും, ഞാൻ അധികം വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ തയ്യാറല്ല എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്നത് എൻ്റെ വീക്ക്നെസ് ആണ്. പക്ഷെ അതെനിക്ക് ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിൽ പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ? ഐ കനോട്ട് സേ ദീസ് തിങ്സ് ഇൻ എൻ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ. ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ഇരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഉറക്കം വരും, അതെൻ്റെ വീക്ക്നെസ്സാണ്. ബട്ട് ക്യാൻ ഐ ടെൽ ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ എൻ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ? നോ. So we cannot tell such things in an interview. So it is very tricky. How do we answer such questions? Those things, all the questions will be dealt with in the next class. We will take it up in the next class. We will conclude with this activity, activity 4, do's and don'ts. We need to knock at the door and seek permission to enter the room. Can I just walk into the room without taking any permission? So is this tick mark? We need to knock at the door and seek permission, yes or no? Should we seek permission? Yes, we should seek permission. We should seek permission. ചുമ്മാ കയറി പോകാൻ നമ്മുടെ വീടൊന്നുമല്ല. It is an interview room. Yes, it is an interview room. It is a very sacred place for the candidate. Like a church or a mosque or a temple is a sacred place for the believer. The interview room is a very sacred place where we have to beg permission, ask permission before we enter the room. So we have to, so that we will put a tick mark there. Next one is slightly tricky. We should never talk to other candidates who are waiting for their turn. Should we talk to other candidates who are waiting for their turn? We should never talk എന്നാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ടിക്ക് ചെയ്താൽ നമ്മൾ ഒരിക്കലും സംസാരിക്കരുതെന്നാണ്. Should we talk to other candidates or should we remain silent? It is confusing. Okay. Sometimes you may feel that we should talk, but sometimes you may feel that we should not talk. But it is better to talk, have some discussion with the other candidates. Yes. We can have some minimal discussion without talking. It is we are going to increase your strain and stress. Have some discussion. Just talk something. അവിടെ ഭയങ്കര ഒരു ഡിസ്കഷൻ ആക്കി മാറ്റരുത്. We can talk to them so we get an idea of the kind of candidates that who have come for the interview. This is also a kind of education for us who have come for the interview. നമ്മളെക്കാളും ക്വാളിഫൈഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളവരുണ്ടാവാം, നമ്മളെക്കാളും ഉണ്ടാവാം. But that doesn't mean that you will not get the job. If you have a better personality than the other people, you are likely to get the job. Yes, just ask something. Don't have a big discussion. You can just have a brief discussion about themselves, where they come from, what are their qualifications, where did they study, etc. That is likely to reduce the strain and the tension that you have while waiting for the interview. So you don't have to build a long conversation, just talk to them. So that is something that we can do. We should talk. We should talk, but not make it a big conversation. We can have a talk to the candidates, and that will relieve the tension. The fear will be reduced a little when we talk to the other candidates. In any case, whether they are more qualified or you are more qualified, you will get the job only if you perform well in the interview. So that is something which you are very sure about. So don't bother about what they are. They tell you. They may tell you qualifications which they actually may not have. Don't be bothered about what they tell you. Just listen to them and talk to them. So this is something which we can follow when we discuss with other candidates. Don't be shocked by what they tell you. They may tell you that I have 10 years experience. അപ്പോൾ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ ചിലപ്പോൾ അവിടെ നിന്ന് പോകും. അവർക്ക് ഒരു എക്സ്പീരിയൻസും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല, പക്ഷെ അവർ 10 വർഷം എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് നമ്മളോട് ചിലപ്പോൾ പറയും. നമ്മൾ അങ്ങോട്ട് കയറി സംസാരിച്ചിട്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇങ്ങോട്ട് കയറി പലരും സംസാരിക്കും. We should not avoid them. We should talk to them. Just listen to them. But be very intelligent, that don't be carried away by what the other candidates tell us. Don't be carried away by the opinion that they tell us. They may even tell you that this organization is not good. എന്തിനു വേണ്ടിയാണ്? നിങ്ങൾ അവിടെ നിന്ന് പോയാൽ പിന്നെ അവർക്ക് ഒരു കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ് കുറഞ്ഞില്ലേ? So don't be bothered about what they tell them, but you can always have a good discussion. There will be very good candidates also. I'm not saying that the candidates who come there are all bad. There will be some very good candidates. This is also an education for us. Every people we interact, every person we interact with will teach us something. So it is good to interact with them. And this is inside the interview room. We should not interrupt the interviewer while he or she is speaking. Interview നടത്തുന്ന ആളെ സംസാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ഇടയിൽ കയറി എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാമോ എന്ന്. Can we interrupt them? We should not interrupt them. We should not interrupt the interviewer while he is speaking. We should not interrupt. Yes, we should not interrupt. That is correct. It is not only true of interview, but everywhere. Even when we have a personal conversation with someone, it is good manners not to interfere when somebody is speaking. You can wait for that person to complete that sentence, and then you can put in your views. You will always get an opportunity to speak. So we should never interrupt somebody when they are speaking. We may have something to tell the interviewers. They will give you an opportunity to speak. So they will give us an opportunity. We can wait and then speak. We can ignore the questions put forward by the interviewer if you don't know the answer. അറിയാത്ത ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് എന്തോ ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്കൊന്നും കേൾക്കാത്ത പോലെ ഇരിക്കാം. ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് അറിയാത്തത് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ കേൾക്കാത്തത് പോലെ ഇരിക്കുക. എനിക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ആൻസർ അറിയില്ല, അപ്പോൾ കേൾക്കാത്തത് പോലെ ഇരിക്കാം. Can you do this? No, we should not do that. Yes, so we should tell them if we have some difficulty in finding the answers to some questions. You can tell them that either you don't know the answer, tell them that you don't know the answer, or you can tell them that this is not my area. So honesty is a very quality that they are looking for. Every company is looking for this quality. This is something which is sadly lacking nowadays everywhere. So everybody is looking for this, not for qualifications. So honesty is a very good quality. If you don't know something, tell them. So don't ignore the questions. Don't also pretend that we have forgotten. അയ്യോ എനിക്ക് ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, ഇപ്പം മറന്നുപോയി. So that is also not a good way of answering. Tell them that you don't know the answer. So the interview board will appreciate such honesty on our part, and they will ask us things which we are aware of. So they will ask you, then what are the things that you know of? So then we can tell them the areas that we are familiar with, and then we will be able to drive the interview in a manner that will be beneficial to us. We should speak clearly and loudly. Yes, so it is very clear. We should speak clearly and loudly so that the interview board does not have any trouble in understanding what we are saying. It is not advisable to sit during an interview. Interview നടക്കുമ്പോൾ ഇരിക്കാൻ പാടില്ല. No, it is no. So it is correct. No is correct. It is advisable. So അവിടെ നമ്മൾ ഇൻറ്റു തന്നെയാണ് ഇടേണ്ടത്. It is advisable to sit. We can sit, but നമ്മൾ കയറി ചെന്ന ഉടനെ കസേര വലിച്ചിട്ടിരിക്കില്ല. They will tell us to sit, and when they ask us to sit, we can say thank you and then sit. So that is how we sit. We don't just go inside and pull down the chair and sit. They will ask us to sit, only then we can sit, and when they ask us to sit, say thank you and sit. Impress this interview board by telling details about yourself that are not true. Can we tell them things which are actually not true about ourselves? ഇല്ലാത്ത കാര്യങ്ങൾ. എനിക്ക് കോളേജിൽ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഒന്നല്ല ഞാൻ, പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ കോളേജിൽ ഫസ്റ്റ് ആയിരുന്നു എന്നൊക്കെ ഞാൻ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, is it good? Can I create a good? No, we should not do that. So again, here, this quality of honesty is very important. We have to be honest about ourselves. So even if you say some things which are very impressionable, they will find out if it is not true. So it is better not to say the wrong things. We should not criticize our previous employers or colleagues. Yes or no? Should we criticize? We should not criticize our. No, we should not criticize. സോ ഇവിടെ നമുക്ക് ടിക്ക് മാർക്കാണ് വേണ്ടത്. വി ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് ക്രിട്ടിസൈസ് തന്നെയാണ്, അത് ശരിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെ ടിക്ക് മാർക്ക് വരും. ബട്ട് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് യു ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് ക്രിട്ടിസൈസ്. വിമർശിക്കുന്നത് ശരിയല്ല, മറ്റുള്ളവരെ കുറ്റപ്പെടുന്നത്. അത് നോട്ട് ഓൺലി ഇൻ ആൻ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ, മേക്കിംഗ് കംപ്ലയിൻസ് അബൌട്ട് അതേഴ്സ് എവരിവെയർ ഈസ് നോട്ട് എ ഗുഡ് ക്വാളിറ്റി. So you become a complaint box. Everywhere you are going to criticize others. So you should avoid this when we talk about an interview. They may ask you why you are going to leave your current job. This is a possible question. We will discuss that question later. But we should take care that we don't criticize our previous employers. Then how will we handle that? That also we will discuss later. We should thank the board when we leave the hall. Yes, we should say thank you. And we should offer a firm handshake before leaving. This is also very tricky, a tricky question. Should we offer a handshake before leaving the hall? Yes, handshake, if they offer us, if the interview board offer us a handshake, we can accept it. But we are not supposed to offer them a handshake because they are the people who are conducting the interview. So before they leave, if they like to give us a shake hand, we can accept the shake hand, but we are not going to offer them a handshake. So when they offer us, we can accept them and give a firm handshake. And the last point is we should close the door when we go out of the hall. Yes. So once we have finished the interview, we open the door and we have to close it behind us. So that shows that you know the proper etiquette, the proper manners. So in the next session, we will be discussing, so this next session is going to be very important because we will be discussing the common questions that are going to be asked in an interview. So that we will take up in the next class. Till then, it's goodbye. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.